The differences between patriotism and terrorism are few, as terrorism is psychological warfare. Terrorists try to manipulate us and change our behavior by creating fear, uncertainty, and a division in society, said Patrick J. Kennedy. But a terrorist can also be considered a patriot, depending on the point of view of the observer. Terrorists and patriots alike partake in extreme actions in the name of a country or group. This group of people is what gives the terrorist or patriot the power to act. If the group agrees with the leader's ideas and actions, then they will see the leader as a patriot. People can also see the same actions as bad, making that person a terrorist. Leaders must be able to influence the beliefs of the people. This is so the leader can take the actions he wants and be seen as good. Propaganda is a tool used for this purpose. Propaganda is used everywhere in our society to influence the ideas of a large group of people. Political leaders use it to gain and effectively use power without backlash. Furthermore, propaganda is used in business and everyday products for profit. Understanding the purpose and the presence of propaganda is essential to seeing why groups of people do the things that they do. 1930 was the beginning of the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo in the Dominican Republic. It can be difficult to understand why the dictatorship was allowed to continue for so long without backlash from the people. This is especially true when coming from a democratic society. In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Alvarez provides insight to the propaganda used in order to manipulate the citizens of the Dominican. The dictatorship in the Time of the Butterflies is not seen as a good use of power to people from a democratic society. However, to preserve his rule, Trujillo too must influence a group of people to effectively justify his actions. Trujillo used a few tools, including fear, to control his regime, but there are other methods like propaganda. Trujillo wanted to control the thoughts and the ideas of the people. If the regime saw or heard anyone conspiring against the government, that person would be immediately thrown in jail. During the revolution of the Dominican Republic, the Mirabal family came together to actively speak out against the government. The Mirabals are a family native to the area. Minerva Mirabal is the leader of the group, nicknamed Mariposa or Butterfly. Both Minerva Mirabal and Maria Teresa Mirabal were put in jail for conspiring in an underground attempt to organize a revolution. While in jail, the girls would lift the spirits of the other prisoners by singing the national anthem of the Dominican Republic. But as a result of this singing, Minerva was isolated for 2 weeks. The regime did not trust any kind of act that could be even slightly perceived as revolutionary. They did not just want the people to bow down to their regime, they wanted to silence them into submission. The regime knew that to keep the majority of the people content, they had to get people to understand why they were doing the things that they were. Often, the government would release revolutionary prisoners, but first, the prisoners had to admit that they were in the wrong. Many prisoners complied with this. Minerva understood that by allowing for her early release, her image as the symbol of the revolution will be weakened. This act of forcing prisoners to confess is a form of propaganda in itself. The regime manipulated the public into believing that the regime had reformed the former revolutionaries for the better. By showing the public that they helped change people, it implies that they were in the right all along. This implied idea will influence how the public sees the jailings of the government. This allows the regime to continue onward. Additionally, Patricia Mirabal was involved in the revolution. She joined for a religious purpose. Because of this, her son Nelson became involved as well. He was arrested along with his father. Patricia had to visit Trujillo for the release of her son, and local media was there to document the exchange. When given her son back, she fell to her knees thanking God. The newspaper took her picture and the headline was, "Woman thanks Trujillo for return of son." This is not true. The media twisted the story in favor of influencing the ideas of the reader. Seeing a revolutionary thanking Trujillo would inspire someone reading the article to think better of Trujillo and worse of the revolutionaries. Trujillo's regime is trying to sway a population and change their beliefs of Trujillo so they are less likely to rebel. Convincing a group of people that Trujillo's actions are justified helps to silence the people who do not believe. The Mirabal sisters' actions against the regime could be viewed as helpful and good or harmful and bad, depending on what the beliefs of the person are when one asks. The regime's use of propaganda allowed the regime to continue making actions that would not be very favorable if all the people were against him for a long time. Eventually, the beliefs of the people changed, and the actions were no longer justifiable and good, bringing an end to the power. The root of power is convincing a group of people to follow and accept you. A democratic society has many differences from a dictatorship, but there are some similarities. The government still needs to gain the support of the people so that the government can take actions without being overthrown. Influencing the ideas and beliefs of a population center on the use of propaganda, similar to the dictatorship in The Time of the Butterflies. In the modern-day dictatorship of North Korea, information flow is restricted. There is not a lot of extensive information known about North Korea available to the United States, and within North Korea, not a lot of information is known about the US. The people of North Korea are subjected to a lot of propaganda about the United States. In one propaganda video, the people were told that the Americans live in a place where there is snow everywhere and the only food is scavenging and birds, and enjoyment for American comes from the cake that North Korea gives us. It is completely absurd, but it works. People do not know anything different about the US, so they believe everything that the propaganda video outlines.
How Americans live today. Dramatic music. This is how Americans live today, drinking coffee made from snow and living in tents and buying guns to kill each other. Their houses blow down very easily. Again, there are no birds in the trees apart from these, which will be eaten on Tuesday.
This video is tailored to make the lives of the Americans seem as foreign as possible. This strangeness is crucial, as the North Korean government can use this tool to influence the ideas of the people.
These telephones no longer work. There is no one to call. Meantime, these people queued up for handouts from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and were each given a cake.
There is not a good indication on how many people saw this particular video, but the reason holds true. Someone made it with the intention of swaying the beliefs of a group of people. Americans can begin to understand why the average citizen of North Korea might take action against the United States. The North Korean people were only exposed to a few select pieces of information that Americans know are lies, but the North Koreans think it is the truth. Propaganda is essentially all lie. It is a distortion of the truth. But the truth to one person, depending on their beliefs, could be a lie to another. The propaganda video to Americans is full of lies, but the North Korean people think that it is the truth. Truth and lie can be subjective in this sense. Propaganda distorts the definition of truth and lie because it alters the opinions of the people, and therefore, what is actually a truth and a lie. Beyond government applications, the propaganda model explains why the news and media is so biased. The propaganda model is a conceptual model in political economy advanced by Howard S. Herman and Noam Chomsky that states how propaganda, including systematic biases, function in mass media. The media is dependent on certain factors, like influences from big corporations, money flow, and where the source of the information comes from. The propaganda model explains popular phrases like follow the money trail to figure out why someone is doing something, or consider the source before you make a judgment. Citizens are often getting second, third, or even fourth-hand information, so it raises the question of who should assume ownership and blame for actions if people were never given the correct information in the first place. How can people have true beliefs and ideas if they are constantly being influenced by factors that people cannot control? The definition of truth and lie are gray. It depends on who one asks. Propaganda highlights the problem of different ideals and beliefs inspiring actions that are deemed good and bad, truth or lie based on the viewpoint, even if it is the same action being performed. As a whole, people cannot do anything about the use of propaganda in our society. It is everywhere, in government, businesses, even popular clothing brands. The brand Obey is very popular among teenagers, but many do not know what the brand is really promoting. The label is designed to look like communist propaganda, and it promotes anti-Christian and anti-capitalist messages. The word obey is actually telling its audience to do the opposite, to rebel and to not conform. This tool of propaganda is slowly convincing a population of people to match the ideas of the creator and the brand without the population knowing they are being swayed. In this way, Obey was successful because now the ideas of the creator of Obey are being presented on anyone who wears the brand. The manipulation of people's ideas for justification of power comes down to the use of propaganda, and there is not anything to do about it. Society needs to recognize the presence of propaganda in our world, and with recognition comes responsibility. Society needs to understand that our media and where we get our information is biased and unreliable, and our own perception of good and bad, truth and lie, right and wrong is different from other people's based on their experiences and beliefs. Society has to attain responsibility for the actions taken under the influence of propaganda. But this is not all bad, for conflicting ideas and beliefs is what inspires even better ideas and progress. Propaganda is just an extreme and mass production form of convincing people, and most people have convinced someone one way or another at some point in their lives. It is embedded in the way people communicate and will forever influence people's beliefs and therefore the way people view and carry out actions.